Okay, welcome everyone. This is our Teachers in Tower Garden Zoom, and I personally am very excited because this is going to be a fun little journey to hear from teachers or one parent advocate who everyone has had a lot of experience with growing on the Tower Garden, and we want to hear how that goes in the classroom. So if you are thinking about a Tower Garden, maybe you want to get one for your school, your child's school, or your home school, or whatever, this is the place to be. So I'm Mimi Blankenship, and I'm with the Juice Plus Company, have been for 15 years this month. And so Tower Garden is just one of my favorite things because it really does help the kids and our future because we're learning how to grow on our own tower, and we love to eat what we grow. So we're going to get started. I have a little PowerPoint. I'm going to share my screen right now. And tell me if you guys can see it, because I know sometimes it's...
Yep.
Can see your screen, but not your PowerPoint.
Yeah, isn't that funny how that works? Okay, how about this?
Perfect.
Right.
Yep.
All right, Tower Garden, growing young minds. Okay, so here's a beautiful Tower Garden picture, and it's called vertical aeroponic growing system because we use all natural earth mineral tonic to grow it and not dirt, no soil. So why is it important? Because of this really explosive growth in gardening, and especially now with our pandemic, people want to know what they're eating. They want to enjoy growing it at home because they are home and because they want to eat healthy. So it's also called a locavore, or eating locally. Locavore movement means growing or eating locally. And the media has helped a lot. As you may be aware that O'Hare Airport in Chicago has a whole system of Tower Gardens, but they're not the only ones. And these news agencies have covered the Tower Garden from the east to the west and south to the north. We now have 49 states with 7,500 schools already engaged in the Tower Garden or using the Tower Garden. So why is aeroponics a big deal? Well, basically it's safe and clean, and it grows stronger, healthier plants, but also it grows with less water and less space. And there's a higher yield, and the roots get to be exposed to the air and more CO2, which causes it to grow faster. It's environmentally friendly, like I said, 10% of the water, 10% of the land, which is getting more and more important as we move along. And you get to control the fact that we don't use pesticides or herbicides. We only grow with those minerals and grow with organic mineral tonic. So it's easy to put it together. There's a YouTube of how to install it and put it together. I don't know what that's about. It's easy to maintain. There, like I said, no dirt and no weeds, and less climate sensitive because you can grow outside when the weather's beautiful, or bring it inside and grow it with the lights, which is fun. And it grows so quickly that the students also enjoy eating what they grow. We've seen that, and we're going to probably hear more about that. So you grow good health, you help kids to learn more about good health, and they want to have good health. So the produce, you pick it when it's right, you eat it, it's nutritious. We call it tower to table. And you can really taste the difference in Tower Garden produce and in just commercially grown produce. So Nancy, you want to introduce our first teacher or speaker?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, I'm Nancy Arnold. I've been with the Juice Plus Company for 23 years. Love my Tower Garden. I have one in my kitchen and one out on my deck. And I'm very excited to introduce our first speaker, Lori Culp. She is mom to two very active boys, a freshman and senior in high school. And Lori has helped multiple schools incorporate Tower Gardens, much to the delight of both teachers and students. She's an active parent in the school system and has vast experience in the Tower Garden world. She is affectionately known by all as the Tower Garden Lady. So we're really glad that you could join us tonight, Lori.
Thanks, Nancy. I appreciate that introduction. Yeah, so the Tower Garden Lady is probably one of my favorite titles. It was great when we were able to actually get into the school kids would run up to me and go, "Are you the Tower Garden lady?" and give me a big hug. And I just love that. So looking forward to being post-COVID and being able to get back into school and get those hugs again. Those are the sweetest kids. But yeah, I have been fortunate to be able to partner with preschools, elementary, middle, and high schools to help them grow with Tower Gardens. And as Mimi mentioned, there's an entire curriculum that goes along with Tower Garden that hits on everything from health and science, math, language arts, and social studies. But teachers are really creative, and what I've learned is that even though we have this vast resource for them, they can come up with their own things that are unique for their class and their students to help them thrive. And so one of the things that, or several of the things I'll share with you quickly, starting with elementary school, I love that some of the teachers use it, the Tower Garden, to help students who don't like to read out loud. So they may say, you get to go read to the Tower Garden, which helps them kind of find their voice, and then they're participating more in class, and they're getting to know their peers better and interact with their teachers. So it impacts much more than just their reading, but it's a tool that they use to help them kind of come out of their shell. And then on the flip side of that, they also use it as a reward system. So, if you remember back when my kids were in kindergarten, they think it was the coolest thing to go into the lunchroom and clean the table. That was their, job. And so if they would only do that at home, they did the same thing with the Tower Garden. They get so many stars, they get to go read next to the Tower Garden, or they get to be in charge of taking care of the Tower Garden, which is a big, responsibility for them when they're little, and they really appreciate that. And it just makes them feel grown up, and it gives them authority over something. They also use it in specials. We've seen it with music and with art. One of the teachers wanted to see, they had several towers in the school. Will it grow better if we sing to it? It will. So it was kind of neat to see them do that experiment and kind of chart that and see how that was going to work. One of the things that they've done through all levels, including preschool through high school, is a farmer's market. And that's really neat because based on the age, they're able to incorporate so many different facets, from a business plan for the older students to just the pride of growing something, to economics, and then social skills of having to interact with parents or people in the community as they make these transactions when selling their herbs and their lettuce and so forth. My favorite thing by far, though, is the community service that they tie into it. So many schools use this to send the food home with their needy children, and they also donate to the co-op. So even in this virtual situation, they can do little field trips where they're like, hey, we're going into the co-op to make a donation, and you'll see them harvest the lettuce, take it to the co-op. And I'll share one short story with you really quickly. I went into a school, they called me up one day and they said, you've got to come in and meet this first grader. And I said, okay, tell me about her. And they said the assistant superintendent came to have lunch with the principal, and they sent the student and one other student in to take them a salad for their lunch. They didn't prep them. They just said, take the salad into the principal and the assistant superintendent. And the assistant superintendent looked at it and said, this is the most beautiful salad I've ever seen. Where did you get it? And this first grader, they had their Tower Garden for 6 weeks, proceeded to tell him all about the Tower Garden, how it was assembled, how they use it with their academics, how they check the pH, what they were growing, and how they were giving it and sending it home to students in their school that needed food. And when I went to meet the little girl, she ran up, gave me a big hug, and said, you brought the Tower Garden to our school? And I said, yeah. And she goes, you're the Tower Garden lady? And I said, yes. And she's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And there were tears in her eyes because she said, we have so many kids in our school who need food and they don't have fresh food, and now we're able to help them. And she was 6 years old, and she knew she was making a difference. And so to me, it's just huge. And that's why I do what I do and partner with the schools. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. And if you don't have one in your school, I really encourage you to check that out and see how you can incorporate that. Thanks, Nancy.
Oh, that's fantastic, Lori. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lori. That gave me chills. I love that. All right, Miss Emily Ann.
Hey, yes, that was an amazing story, Lori. Thank you for sharing that. My name is Emily, and I've been with the Juice Plus Company 5 years. And just like Nancy, I have a Tower Garden too. I only have one. Kind of jealous that you have one in your kitchen too. I might have to up my game next year. But I love growing mine outside. My favorite part is the fresh herbs. I throw them on everything, and it's really been a game changer in the kitchen. But I want to introduce to you someone super sweet who I used to work out with in Atlanta like 5 years ago. Her name is Julie Ferris, and she's an assistant principal in Nashville, Tennessee, where she lives with her husband and her 2 sweet little ones. She has a 2.5-year-old and a 3-month-old right now. So super big props for being on a Zoom call while you are momming a 3-month-old. And they're just adorable. But Julie purchased a Tower Garden for her kindergarten classroom before she moved on to be an assistant principal. So I'm excited to introduce you to her, and I'll let Julie take it away.
Thanks, Emily. I am Julie Ferris, and like Emily said, I got a Tower Garden for my kindergarten class, but now I'm outside of the classroom. I got interested in Juice Plus when I met Emily 5 years ago in our workout classes and saw the Tower Garden on the website and was like, I need this for my classroom. And at that time, I was making the transition to Nashville, and I'm like, how am I going to get this? It's kind of expensive for a teacher budget. And so I wrote a grant on Donors Choose. If you're not familiar with it, teachers can write for any types of things that they want to use into their classroom. And it got funded within, I'd say, a matter of 2 weeks. And we're both very excited, and we got it, and we had an unboxing ceremony, and the kids were so excited about what are all these pieces and what are we going to do with it. And we set it up in our classroom and with the grow lights. And our situation was pretty unique. We still had nap time then. And so the grow lights were like a signal that it was going to be nap time. So like when the lights went off, everybody knew it was time for nap.
That's adorable.
And then it was just like a nice little, like, you know, a sign that like, now it's time to get back to learning. And that was really fun. And our parents got involved too. I think that was my first year at this school in Nashville. And I was like the popular teacher because everyone wanted our basil. They'd come down and be like, so you got a basil?
That's so funny.
And it was just really fun that everybody would come check on it, and our like administrators at the time would come and like show it off to other people, so that was fun too. But the kids enjoyed it so much. Like you can see in the picture, like they took care of it. Like I was like facilitating, but they took on the responsibility of hooking the hose up to our sink and running the water and checking the pH and giving it its fertilizer and everything. And it was just really sweet. And they like, they're 5 and 6 year olds, so they didn't really know like the roots, and like they haven't seen a plant from like the bottom up. So it was fun to like rip it out, and they were like, what is this? And like didn't really know at first, and just explore it through science and read alouds. And even in writing, we did a lot of projects where we would look at the tower over the course of several days and see how the plants changed and wrote about it. And then the day before Christmas break, we ate our garden. So that was really fun that everybody got to pick out a lot of the pieces and tear it apart. And we put some ranch dressing on it. So, you know, they love it. But it was so much fun. And I hope it's a memory that they will cherish. It's definitely a memory that I will cherish. And I advocate for teachers to put one in their classroom as well.
Thank you, Julie. Oh, that was such a lovely picture of how they enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Julie. I love this picture of them making a salad. I think it's adorable. And it's shaping their future. That's exciting, really exciting. Well, I get the pleasure now of introducing my friend, Pam Mitchell here. She is, like she said earlier, from West Texas. And she is a retired teacher, but she has been in the classroom with, well, I know the school is K through 12, I believe, isn't it all the way? Mm-hmm. So she has had a lot of experience with different ages. So Pam, we are real excited to hear from you, and I have a few pictures to share.
Right. Okay, thanks. Gosh, y'all, it's, we all have some really good, you know, stories to tell about the Tower Garden and how it affected the school. Just like the two ladies before me said, the children get so into this right away. And most of the time I taught 5th and 6th grade science. I was self-contained 5th grade classroom, but I had in our new school, I was so blessed to have a science lab connected to my classroom. And so we did a lot of science. And then the sixth graders were right across the hall from me. So their science class was with me in the lab while my kids went across the hall to math. So I got to have two good science classes every day. We got our tower garden and planted it right away. The kids, what I think is so neat is them being able to see everything from the seed to the table and where their food comes from. And yes, we were a country school, and a lot of the kids, come from a farming background, but I can see where, your children who don't have that background so need to know that stuff doesn't just happen at the grocery store, that there's some work involved. And so they got that from planting the little seeds in the rock wool and then seeing them sprout and getting them to put them into the tower garden and then watch them grow. And so my kiddos, the root systems, when you mentioned that, I hadn't even thought about that, but I forgot how amazed they were at what kind of roots were underneath all these plants. So that was cool. The thing I was going to touch on though was I was super blessed to be able to be doing this at a time when our 4-H county, Scurry County extension agent, Rhonda White, was starting a program and trying to get into the schools with this program that the state of Texas 4-H came up with called Learn, Grow, Eat, Go. And that just was so perfect for us. She found out I had the tower garden, and she wanted to, would my program go along with what your kids are doing? Well, perfect. She would teach a lesson once a week, come in. She'd have a recipe. So she got to watch the kids start the garden in the tower garden. Then the main things we planted and grew and found success with were basil, of course. Everybody said that, and teachers were constantly coming to my room too, like basil and any basil, or are you sending home lettuce anytime soon? So the lettuces did great. The rainbow chard and did super well. The kale and so anyway, Rhonda did her lessons with my kids, and then we had the tower garden right there, so they could go if they needed, kale for this recipe. They would go get it, bring it, do the lab with her, and learn how to cook using the food, not just that, take it home. And we did send it home with kids who we knew probably needed to take home those veggies. So the things that they grow, learning to eat them is a huge thing. And for 5th and 6th graders, even some of them start, the first time, I'm not going to wrinkle up my nose. I'm not going to try this. And like you said, a little ranch dressing makes things lots better. And so anyway, they just loved it. And as far as I know, the teacher who took over for me when I retired, I showed her all about the tower garden, and I think she planted it last year. I don't know how things are going as far as school is so different this year for everybody. And so our kids in Texas, most of them are going to school every day. And so maybe they've got their garden going. I hope they have. I haven't kept up with that. But anyway, wonderful thing. Was so happy when my superintendent invited Mimi and her friend Jody to come show us all about the tower garden. And then he bought us 2 for our school. And for a small school, 2 tower gardens was a pretty big deal. So yeah, it's great. I have nothing but grand things to say about it.
Oh, thank you, Pam. And it was great. It was a fun experience too, to come see your school and meet you and hear about how you were using or plan to at that time to use the tower garden, all these different ages, which is so exciting. So the last thing I want to,
by the way, we did let the little children come because they were just right, doors down the hall from us, from pre-K. I mean, not pre-K, but kindergarten. So they did get to be involved in what was happening too. So that was good.
Oh, good. Yeah. And I'm sure they were enthusiastic about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, thank you, Pam. And thank you to Lori and to Julie. Thank you to our speakers. Nancy's going to wrap us up, but I just wanted to be sure and point this out again. There's free access to lesson plans, and we can definitely help you. Sounds like Julie might be the pro on how to get it funded. So Anyway, Nancy, would you like to wrap us up?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and for those that are going to watch the recording. We just encourage you, share this recording with homeschooling parents and teachers that you know. People are looking for a way to engage their kids and bring something new, and the Tower Garden is such a beautiful way to do that. So we just thank you for joining us tonight. And if you're interested in learning more about the Tower Garden, how to get one for your school or your home, get back with the person that invited you tonight, and they can get you a lot more information. So thanks everybody again for joining us here.
Yes, thank you all, and thank you to the speakers and everybody that attended. We're really glad you came.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you, Mimi.
You
Bye,
bet.
everybody.
Yes. Thanks, ladies. Thanks, Mimi.
And so let's